Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Have a moment of silence. Pledge to allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So in information, is there any changes to the agenda?
No, sir.
I think I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I make a motion we approve the agenda as printed.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Overfelt, a second by Mr. Boswick.
Mr. Bond.
Yes.
Mr. Green.
Yeah.
Mr. Overfelt.
Yes.
Bryant. Yes. Mr.
Yes. Any matters disclosed in closed session?
In accordance with section 2.2-3711 alpha 1 pertaining to the discussion, consideration, or interviews of prospective candidates for school board employment, assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salary, discipline, or resignation of specific public offices, appointees or employees of the school board, and 8A legal. Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Overfelt, and a second by Ms. Bryant.
Mr. Green.
Yes.
Mr. Overfelt.
Yes.
Mr. Bond.
Yes.
Mr. Bryant. Yes. Mr.
Yes. Okay, so we're going to open our pre-budget hearing. There's no comments. Need a motion. Okay, need a motion to open that.
So moved.
Okay, got a motion by Mr. Boswick.
Second.
I'm going to give it to Mr. Bree. Second.
Mr. Overfelt.
Yes.
Mr. Bond.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Bryant. Yes. Mr. Green.
Yes. No one? Okay, no one spoke up to speak, so we're going to close.
I make a motion we close the pre-budget hearing.
Second motion.
Motion by Mr. Overfelt, and a second by Mr. Boswick.
Mr. Overfelt.
Yes.
Mr. Bond.
Yes.
Mr. Green.
Yes.
Mr. Bryant. Yes. Mr. Green.
Yes. Citizen comments, okay? The consent agenda,
I make a motion we approve the consent agenda.
got a motion by Mr. Overfelt, second by Ms. Bryant.
Mr. Bond.
Yes.
Mr. Green.
Yes.
Mr. Overfelt.
Yes.
Mr. Bryant. Yes. Mr. Green.
Yes. All right, recognitions.
Oh, that's the first.
Good evening, members of the school board. We're excited to have some students with us and their families. It's been our practice in the school year to try and recognize students for their success. And we as a leadership and school board team appreciate families coming out, and we recognize it just sets a positive tone for us at our meetings. And it's exciting for us to say well done to you. So we've got several that we want to introduce to you tonight, members of the board. And we're going to start. I'll ask you to come up when I call your name. Bristol Turner from Page County Middle School. This is Bristol, and I know we're going to read a little bit about you, Bristol, and then we're going to give you a certificate and get a photo with you, okay?
Bristol was a 7th grade student at PCPS who demonstrates strong collaboration, leadership, and perseverance each and every day. She stands out in all her classes as being the student who embodies the row together mindset.
Bristol, this is from your school principal and the leaders at your school. You are recognized tonight as a model student.
All right.
I believe, I would like to read, but I believe the next young lady may not be with us. Autumn Head from Shenandoah. I believe she took ill today. So we'll honor her at a later time. Next is Silas Jennings from Luray Elementary. Silas? Silas, you gonna okay to read some things about you? Yeah, okay.
Hi, Silas. I'm going to read something about you, okay? All right, buddy. Silas demonstrates flexibility because he is able to adjust when things change and try new ways of doing things. When plans are different than expected or an activity feels challenging, he works to stay calm and gives his best effort. Silas listens to directions, accepts help or feedback from adults, and is willing to switch strategies when something isn't working. His positive attitude helps him learn, grow, and work well with others in the classroom. Way to go, Silas.
Hopefully I won't get this name wrong. Eliana Parker from Stanley? Okay,
I'm going to read it anyway.
we'll get her, we're gonna read, and then we'll catch up with them.
Miss Allie wrote a Christmas story just for fun and decided to share the joy of Christmas with her community. Allie and her mother printed around 50 copies of the story and hung them around Stanley. The Kibler Library found the story and wanted to find out who wrote this lovely story. When they discovered it was Allie, they reached out to the family. They presented Allie with an honorary literary certificate, and her story was entered into the library archives. Allie's story was featured on the front page of Page News and Courier. Stanley Elementary would like to recognize Allie for making her community a better place and for spreading joy.
All right.
Now we have from Stanley as well, Aiden Bannock. All right, we're going to read about this.
Well, I'm pretty fortunate I get to read too about Stanley Elementary students. District is representing very well here tonight. Aiden exemplifies what it means to be a good school citizen through his consistent display of excellent behavior and dedication to helping others. In the classroom, Aiden is always respectful, attentive, and eager to learn, setting a positive example for his peers. His role as a classroom helper showcases his willingness to support both his teachers and classmates. Whether it's by organizing materials, assisting with projects, or offering a helping hand to anyone in need, Aiden's commitment to maintaining a positive, inclusive environment contributes significantly to the overall harmony and productivity of the school community.
Very photogenic, man.
And the last one tonight from Springfield Elementary School is Emma Rutt. And Emma, I'm going to tell you up front, I see a typo on your certificate, so mom and dad, come let us know and we'll get that corrected, okay?
I'm honored to tell you about Emma Rutt. Emma demonstrates the characteristic gratitude in our classroom every day. She's quick to say thank you to her classmates and teachers. Emma shows appreciation and kindness to those around her. Emma also shows respect to her peers and adults alike. She's a great leader and role model in the classroom and at school.
All right.
Hey, Dr. Johnson, is it okay if I just read Autumn Head?
Please do, yes, did
Yes.
we miss that one? Yes.
Yeah. Autumn works so very hard every day, and it truly shows. Even when things are tough, she keeps trying and never gives up. She has the sweetest, fun-loving personality, and her smile brings so much sunshine into the classroom. She's a true friend and is kind to everyone around her. We're lucky to have her, and she makes Shiner Elementary a happier place just by being herself. So that's Miss Autumn Head. And parents, you can leave if you want to, or you can stay with us. But I would highly recommend you take your kids to McDonald's and get them something. Thank you.
What's the bill for that one? You talked
your
the kids
receipts
into it
and
anyway.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping to go to Whisper something.
The parents are giving you a stink eye.
We should have asked you for certificates.
Yeah.
Or the coupons.
They probably would come.
as they're filtering out, we'll go ahead and go with our informational monthly finances. Ms. Miller?
Yes, good evening, school board members. You have been presented with the monthly financial report for the month ended January 31, 2026, where January expenditures for Fund 1 are $3,962,198.95. You have also been provided with the local match, which we have balanced with the treasurer's office. If you have any questions, I will do my best to answer them.
Any questions?
Oh, I have a question. The 62, is that going to balance out because we're at 58 and that's at 69?
I'm sorry, where are you?
Then fiscal year is 58.33. And then up top, there's some that's in the 69s, like the 62, which is the admin and health. Is that going to get adjusted?
You're looking at the categories. Is that what you're looking at?
Is that going to get adjusted down? I understand about the 98% coming in, but I'm talking about the expenditures at the top. Is that going to level off, or is that going to be expected to keep going above the fiscal year percentage?
It won't level off unless we, no, I look for it to be that way.
So it's going to continue on the high.
That's what I expect.
And that's because of the other issue. Okay.
Yes.
Any other questions? All right. Ms. Miller. VSBA policy updates, Ms. Clark.
Yes, actually, I'll be presenting that for Ms. Clark. Ms. Clark is working as an administrator at the Page Luray game tonight. So as you know, Ms. Clark has been conducting a review of our policy manual and has been working diligently over the last 6 months to review and provide updates. And so tonight you have a list of about 10 or more policies. There are no significant, these are minor word changes, verbiage adjustments, or links to certain legal updates, but there is nothing in these policies that change the essence of the policy. So we bring those as informational tonight, give you a chance to look over them and come back for action item next time.
Any questions? All right. Next one is early retirement incentive plan.
Yes, sir. Yep. So every year in February, we come to the school board for permission to update the early retirement plan. And I'll just give you a quick recap of what that plan is. It's an opportunity for employees to retire early when they reach the age 60. And in education, oftentimes teachers and educators start at about age 22 when they come out of college. And the Virginia retirement system considers them eligible for full retirement after 30 years. The challenge is typically they're in their early 50s at this point, and health insurance is always a big challenge to retirement. And so some years ago we realized that we had folks that really had given their best foot and had put their 30 to 35 years in, were really wanting to retire. And we saw an opportunity for a couple of benefits to the school system. One is to help a valuable employee who'd been giving their life to us. Two, in getting creative by getting them to come back as substitutes, we get really valuable subs for our classrooms. And financially, they retire at the top of the scale, and you usually bring in replacements much lower. So there's usually a financial positive flow as well. So this ERIP, what we want to do is bring it as information tonight, and we'll ask for your approval in 2 weeks. And the essence of the plan is you have to be 60 years old by August 1. You have to have at least 20 years in the Virginia retirement system. 10 of those years have to be with Page County. The last 5 consecutive have to be with Page, and the last 3 you have to have been on the health insurance plan. And if you meet all of that criteria, you can get approved to be on the ERIP plan. You can announce retirement at the end of the year, and you come back. And the change this year is they would come back and do 30 days of substitute teaching. It's been 25, but as you all know, health insurance has gone up. We want to make sure the value of the days equate to the value of what we're going to put into employer contribution for insurance. So we're the only change in this policy from last year is we're moving from 25 to 30 days.
Any questions on?
And those extra 5 days is covered for the health insurance?
For the premium.
And is that the additional 18% again this year?
So Ms. Miller and her team, we had a long conversation about this, and we would anticipate, yes, and we would anticipate this time next year, we're going to have to probably do the same again. We ran a lot of numbers on that. Yes, sir. Yeah. Yeah.
Any other questions? All right. Go to the informational for the Page County Technical Center welding project. Mr. Williams?
I asked Mr. Williams to put this together after having some conversation with some school board members. This is a topic that's been on the table for a couple of years, and we thought tonight would be a good opportunity just for a quick update on that.
Okay.
I really don't have a whole lot of an update, but it's going to be more some history and informing you folks as what we are speaking of. Can we go to the next slide, Bill? Yeah, there you go. The building we're speaking of, if you can see, is the welding shop. It's separate from the rest of the building. What it was originally was a storage shed, pole shed, basically what it was. And it was converted a number of years back into a welding shop. I do believe with 15 booths, been really successful. With that being said, if we can go to the next one, the part that we're in question talking about, if you see welding in the next, to your right hand side, that next spot there where if you can see where that door is, that's where the hopes, wishes we'd like to have is a classroom. That is correct, right there. That's what it is. And basically what we've got is 3 walls that's got purlins and posts and sheet metal. It's nothing else there. The front side is open with a chain link fence in front of it. It's where it's still storage. With that being said, they'd like to make a classroom out of that with a bathroom in the corner, which is going to require a pump station outside, and none of that's been whatever in any of that. The only thing we do have is electricity in there. We do have enough electric in the building to serve that part of it. What we're doing now, if you notice that sidewalk, it's asphalt out in front of it. The darker you see, and then the sidewalk, it goes up to the health science building there. I believe it's 203 is what they're using for a classroom now. So, it's a walk back and forth. It's not a real long walk, but it's, several hundred steps to it. So anyway, that is where we're at. We did go as far as had a couple of construction companies look at it, contractors, and they gave us just some basic numbers for budgetary things, and they were pretty close. One of them was Lance, and it was 3 years ago, and they measured and you looked and just come up with a basic square footage dollars on a square foot for what they were doing at the time, and theirs was somewhere between 250 and 280, they said, and Nielsen did the same thing, and theirs was 332.
It's on the screen.
332. So basically, that's about what I've got. We've really only looked at, some numbers for budget, and that's about as far as it's got.
And if I may
don't have
add,
any
this was 2023, and then the facility study conversation came up, which obviously we're going to hear about tonight. And so that's where this has sat. This kind of stopped as the facility study topic got into full swing. So they are several years old, yes.
And they were just budgetary.
So they're dated.
Yes.
And that's for one classroom and a bathroom?
It's for welding classroom and bathroom out adjoining to that welding shop.
Did you want to bid?
Yeah.
Has a lot to do with running water and pump station and
Right.
trenches and
The plumbing is the biggest.
The pump station, where would it pump to? If you go back to the layout.
Yes, if you, to the best of my knowledge, unless we can find it somewhere else. I helped build that thing in '83. It all goes out to the front and to the left-hand corner, back over to the road is where it goes. It's a pump. This town of
Where's the
Stanton's
road
got
here?
a pump station, yes. So
Okay.
it comes across the road. It's up in that corner somewhere.
Okay.
So, I don't know exactly. Nobody's ever traced that and looked, but I do know it's in the front of the building.
But that's in the price of 332.
I do not think so. Not all that.
Oh,
It said trenching. Go back to the next slide. Didn't it say trenching somewhere? No.
Sanitary pump and trenching. It says
Trenching,
third
yeah,
bullet.
Mhm.
Go through it.
But trenching to
It
where?
would be
That's
probably
yeah.
worthwhile to get another updated quote at least.
It'll be interesting to have a conversation with our R&M friends because part of their contract is some of that helping guidance.
Yeah.
Doesn't the Department of Health have where the sewer lines and septic system is?
Sure.
Yeah, the town of Stanley does.
Okay.
Yeah, Terry Pettit.
So it definitely can be found. It's just
Mhm.
then knowing how far it's going to have to pump.
Yeah.
Also tell you we haven't pumped it for a while. We don't know where
Okay.
Cleaned out.
Any other questions on that?
No.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Williams. So I think we have a lot of folks here that are interested in the next presentation, and I'd like to kind of get once you introduce your
I will.
guests,
Yep, have to.
I'd like to recognize the supervisors
Yep.
that are here and any county employees that we have as well, just so we know, planning commissioners or whatever. So.
Yeah, thank you for coming out. I know that there's I see a whole row represented with the Board of Supervisors. I think probably it would be helpful if you wouldn't mind standing so we don't miss anybody. County government.
Well, Alan, you can stand. Hey,
Yeah, so
we've got almost a
So
whole
do
board.
we have all of our supervisors except one?
wow.
yeah, thank you to the Board of Supervisors and other county employees. We have our former chairman of the school board in the back row. We have Dr. Blosser from Laurel Ridge Community College in the back row.
Taylor's back.
Taylor, former board member as well. So a lot of excitement tonight. I'll just give a precursor. I know we have Chris Phillips from RRMM. Tracy Healy is on his team, and he'll bring her into the conversation. She'll be with us virtually through a laptop computer. She's in Ohio. Tracy does all of the data that we've been looking at. Chris represents the architectural firm and is the lead. And of course, we have Gene is with us as well. And so I'll turn it over to you folks to lead us.
Give us just a moment while we get some technology straightened out here.
And Chris, I would ask, these microphones are for the virtual presentation,
Great.
so they're not amplifying you. So the folks behind you.
Very
yeah.
good. Very good. All right. Tracy? All right. Well, good afternoon, or evening, really now. Where did the day go? I will tell you, it is very difficult to follow such an amazing beginning to this meeting. You have a lot to be proud of, and recognizing the students is a fantastic moment. So it's hard to follow that. But we appreciate the privilege and opportunity to be here to share a little bit about where we are in your facilities master planning effort. As Dr. Johnson said, my name is Chris Phillips. I'm principal in charge at RRMM Architects. I direct our Roanoke office, and we're very happy and feel privileged to be able to serve you here in Page County. We will have a tremendous amount of data to go through today, and I will try my very best not to let everybody get to fall too far into that data this late in the evening, because it is a lot to soak up. But what I will do is start by saying it's been a privilege to work with your staff and your leadership, and to be in each one of your schools over the past several months has been a joy. You have a lot to be proud of. Your folks take care of their schools in a tremendous fashion, and your students and teachers are amazing to be around. And we really appreciate that, and appreciate you opening your doors to us to be there. The effort of this study is really at a macro level, and you'll see what I mean by that as we progress through this. But the first effort here is to take a very large holistic view of where this district is in the condition of their facilities, their usage, and perhaps lay groundwork for where they can go in the future. And whatever we want to recommend or options we'll review here shortly, we want to make sure that they contribute to a long-term plan that can be successful for Page County Public Schools. So we're going to just tell you, just a quick infomercial about RRMM. We're a integrated practice of architects, programming and planning experts, and K-12 is really the foundational studio for our entire firm. We're about 140 employees across the state. Again, I direct our Roanoke office, but our focus is really K-12 education, and we pride ourselves in that studio. But really, our core service philosophy is this: we want to be committed to every community that we work in. We're a service-oriented firm. Every community is unique, and we want to make sure that we fully understand and embrace what's important to you and your community, and make sure that whether it's a master planning study or designing of a new school, that those efforts embody what you all value the most. We're not alone in this effort. As Dr. Johnson said, we do have several teammates that have come along beside us and consultants. We have Timmons Engineering, LPA, our mechanical, electrical, plumbing engineers, and then FutureThink, who Tracy represents, is our demographer and geocoding. FutureThink is a woman-owned educational planning firm that we've teamed with really all across the Commonwealth to better understand enrollments, projections, and we'll get into some of that data here. It's a tremendous amount of data that we have to really distill down to the most salient points to help understand what to do and recommend. But Tracy is located in Dublin, Ohio. She works all across the country, but is very familiar with Commonwealth Virginia. Timmons, also a Commonwealth Virginia firm that we do a tremendous amount of work with, civil engineers. So they were helping us with site assessments here on boots on the ground, touring all your facilities with our architects. And you can see they have a plenty of K-12 experience. And then LPA is a mechanical electrical plumbing firm based in Roanoke that we've had a partnership for over 25 years doing K-12 work. So all these folks bring a level of expertise to this effort that we think is just outstanding. So I want to just briefly go over what you've asked us to do, just to refresh our memories on why we're here. Several months back, we were asked to provide a study that had these scope points in it. First being a general evaluation of your existing building conditions, and that required us to be here to walk all your facilities along with Mr. Dykes and our team to understand the facility's conditions at a very cursory level, and then compare those to a very sound document that you all had produced in 2023 by a firm by the name of Bureau Veritas. They are facilities condition assessments. They're a very objective look of your facilities. They capture where you are today at that time, 2023, on your physical needs, and they put dollar values to long-term maintenance. So our role was to validate those, to make sure, are these in line? Are they capturing everything? And by and large, we would say, yes, they are, but they are 2023 documents. And so we're here in 2026. And so we walked all those facilities. The next part of that scope of work you see there is programming, educational adequacy, and capacity analysis. We'll talk a little bit about what that included a little later in this presentation and how we measured that. The third being energy analysis, and that's included in our discussion tonight, both in terms of consumption across the district and comparatively to a new school or newer school that's in operation that we have data in, so we can see just how we're measuring up. The fourth scope there, and this is what Tracy's group is experts in, the demographics, geocoding, and boundary adjustments. That's a mouthful, but it's really a very detailed look at where are all of your students within the district. How does that compare to your school enrollments and the capacity of those schools? And so a tremendous amount of data there, and we've distilled it down to just a few points tonight. And then what we'll get to at some point in the near future is an effort of cost estimating. And we're going to present several options for you all to consider tonight that have been vetted through the design team as well as the school leadership. And then finally, we're here to give presentations. We want you to make sure that you're informed of where we are and where we're heading and have your blessings for that, as well as give you all the data that we can for an objective decision. For the purposes of this study, we will say there are a few facilities that are not necessarily being considered right now. That's not to say that they won't be at some point throughout the process, but right now, and for the purposes of tonight, we have some assumptions that Grove Hill, the technical center, and the administration office, and the the bus maintenance facility are all assumed to remain as is. So just keep that in the back of your mind. Now, we know that those facilities still have needs. They're still on the deferred maintenance plans. Grove Hill, again, another example of a school that may be repurposed at some point in the future or find another life. But for the purposes of tonight and moving into the next steps here, those are all assumed to remain as is, and we'll be doing deferred maintenance on those. Pause there for just a second. And I will say, by all means, I would encourage you to stop me along the way. This is a lot of information, and I could talk for 2 or 3 hours on it. So if you have questions, stop me. I'd much rather have a discussion along the way than try to field them all at the end. So the first part of our scope of work, general existing building evaluations, we did put several folks out here walking all your facilities as we discussed. The Bureau Veritas documents have all been reviewed by our team. We know that you received those in 2023, and that the purpose of a facilities condition assessment is really to document its present condition and then to forecast what it may take to continue to maintain those facilities and address the deficiencies that you currently have. What upgrades may be needed, any renovations that may be needed, and or replacement. Part of all facility conditions assessments should be a ranking of facility condition index, and that basically gives you a measurement of whether the school is how far the school has aged and needs to be addressed. And don't have to get into that, but each one of these documents have that for each school. They then incorporate that into a cost schedule that reflects the upkeep and maintenance. And one thing to keep in mind is those documents, again, are 2023, so they are 2023 construction prices with proposed escalation factors. So based on that, Mr. Dykes has worked and done a fantastic job of creating a capital improvement plan for the school system. You can see here, this is just a snapshot of really the result of that effort in a long-term, I say long-term, but a 5-year average of about $10 million a year is what it would take to address all of those deficiencies and deferred maintenance issues that have accumulated and identified in the Bureau Veritas documents. And with a grand total of about $51.5 million of deferred maintenance and deficiencies that should be addressed in a 5-year period. That's very aggressive, right? We all understand that's a tremendous amount of money in 5 years to consider. So it's a very aggressive amount of work and a large budget. So one thing to consider with that is also the time factor. Deferred maintenance many times is often conducted during summer sessions. So, you have 2.5 months at best to accomplish some of this work. If you think about what that means to accomplish the work in the summer, you really ought to start your design work in the fall in order to accomplish that. So that should play a factor in how you budget those all those deferred maintenance issues. They should start in their design efforts sometime late summer, early fall to be conducted and executed the next summer. So there is a scheduling and a time factor there, and you can only accomplish so much work in a 8 to 10 week period. Some deferred maintenance can be done during the school year, but you have to consider the disruption to the to instruction. So I will then now go to programming, educational adequacy, and capacity analysis. Programming is it's an exercise in which we will sit down with all of your school leadership and start to discuss what is needed in the school as far as space, classroom numbers, number of students per classroom, and then all of the supporting spaces that then go to support that, such as cafeterias, gymnasiums, and so forth, based on an enrollment capacity that you would be projecting or considering. Educational adequacy is a measure of how you're performing now based on your physical space. This educational adequacy does not take into account factors such as curriculum, for instance. That's outside of our purview. That would be something that the school district would do and take on separately. This educational adequacy is measuring things like the size of existing classrooms comparative to the VDOE recommendations, for example. And we'll look at some of that in just a moment. It'll measure things like infrastructure and support for classrooms and instruction. It'll measure furniture. How is the classroom furniture performing? And so we can dive into some of those VDOE standards and the comparative analysis here in just a moment. But I would say overall, again, this presentation is an update. We have many more to come. Is probably about 25 to 30% complete at this point. So today we'll just talk about the VDOE standards a little bit. And then we've really analyzed your capacity analysis. We'll get into those numbers along with some of the information Tracy has provided. And so this is really, really small to see, but part of that capacity analysis is your enrollment projections. And so Tracy's team, along with the design team and the school administrators, have gone through and we have calculated historical enrollments by grade and then looked at the district as a whole. Those numbers are super small. I know you all may have some of these as hard copies somewhere, but really the 3 points at the top are probably the most important. Overall, enrollment has decreased by 15% in the last 10 years. Birth counts are in decline, and moderate projections indicate a decrease of about another 8% over the next 10 years. So we're in a declining phase really for the next 10 plus years. So to help you really boil that down into something a little more tangible, the total decrease in enrollment since 2016-2017 school year is about 527 students. So the current enrollment at Shenandoah and Springfield Elementary, for example, those two schools combined today is about 556 students. So in essence, you've nearly lost two entire elementary schools worth of students in since 2016-2017. Just really puts it in perspective. Now, let's look forward to 2035 and 2036. The same approach here, except I've now compared Luray High School plus Luray Middle School. That current enrollment today is 776 students. By 2035 and 2036, you're projected then to lose another 770 students. So you're basically losing an entire high school and an entire middle school by 2035, 2036, based on the current projected decline in enrollment. So again, just trying to put some perspective to what's ahead between now and the next 10 years.
And that's from 2016.
Yes, so the 527 you see there, that's from 2016 to today, basically. The red is the additional 243 that you're projected to decline by 2035. So a total of those two is 770 students. So that really helps put things into perspective when you're thinking about, how many students, what does that percentage really mean? Yeah. So here's the elementary level, your elementary school capacity. You're currently at about 90% across the district, but some are much lower, some are much higher, but the average is about 90%. So what that reveals to us is you need a better balance between the schools. And Shenandoah and Luray are over, Stanley and Springfield are well under. In 5 to 10 years, again, we're projecting decline, but that capacity will drop to under 85% average at the elementary school level. Middle and high school capacities, you're currently at 64%. So you have tremendous ability to allow for growth at your middle and high school levels. All those schools are operating under 70%, and in 5 years, they're expected to drop to about 62 and then 58 in 10 years. This is a little bit of, and we went school by school to compare, thanks to Dr. Johnson and Mr. Dykes and all of the folks with the administration being able to provide us with plans for each of these buildings. So from those plans, we're able to calculate square footage and then compare that square footage to VDOE standards. You can see the anything in red there indicates percent of space that is under VDOE standard. The gray chart indicates what is the VDOE standard based on grade level. I know this is very hard to read, but you can see just by the color representation, red is well undersized, yellow is approaching the appropriate size, and then a few schools, when you get to measuring like this Shenandoah, the kindergarten classrooms, for instance, are ample. They're appropriately sized, but by and large, you're well under what VDOE would recommend in sizing for most of your classrooms. Springfield doing a little better. There is some space there as far as what you would recommend for VDOE standard. Luray Elementary, Luray Middle, as our numbers showed before, you have some space at the middle schools and high school level. Page approaching meeting VDOE standards. Luray High. Now you would expect Luray High and Page County High to be pretty close because those are your most recent schools. So you can see there you're coming pretty close to what you would expect. So again, that's just part of educational adequacy. There's a lot more to that. We have a matrix that we will sit down with all of your administrators and principals and help them go through this matrix to measure the rest of those criteria, which we hope we'll share with you at our next update meeting as well to have a more complete report on that portion. Yes, sir.
In that analysis, students, that's just numbers of students. What about the services that students are now requiring for how to meet with the state mandating?
Right. Yep. That's
in there as well.
It is from a physical space element.
Okay.
Yep, it sure is. And
Not
so
the main or central office.
right, or curriculum, for instance, that would go to support things like that. That would be outside of our purview. But as far as does the space support any special programs, special needs, that would all be included in what we would do as far as completing that educational adequacy. Yes. Even things like, are the playgrounds appropriate for the elementary school level? Are they safe, functional? Do they meet all the standards you would expect? All the way from that to space needs. Are the cafeterias and kitchens sized appropriately? I can tell you just from our tours that some of the kitchens are not going to meet VDOE standard, for example. So.
Now, just for clarification.
Yes, sir.
I know what you mean, but other people may not know. When you say the VDOE standard versus what we have.
Yes.
Explain that bad or good. Because to me, the way I look at it is the class size is maybe smaller, which VDOE says they can be higher. To me, educational purposes wise, that's better. It's a lower student-teacher ratio. But that's different than having space.
Correct.
That's what you analyze.
So we're talking about two different things. Virginia Department of Education has documents that are publicly available online, that are very well written documents that establish guidelines, design principles for all K-12 schools in Virginia. That document includes things like, for example, kindergarten through second grade classroom sizes should be this X number big. And, you know, it changes per grade level. So pre-K through 2, 2 through 5, 6 through 8, 8 and 9 through 12, based on the classroom function. So a good example, pre-K through 2, VDOE standard would recommend that all of those have a toilet room. Yes. Not all of your elementary schools have that. So that's the kind of measure we're talking about. Okay. Now, what the other piece of what you're asking about is number of students in that classroom. And so student to teacher ratio. That's a programming question, not necessarily a space planning question. So the problem where those overlap is when you have a classroom that should be 800 square feet and it's actually 600 square feet because the school is 60, 70 years old. And that was the standard then. That classroom size then was probably 15 students, maybe 12 students. Now the classroom standard is 18, 25. Some classes you're even able to have up to 30 students in, but the space is still only accommodating really 12, right? That's where the conflict becomes a problem. And so you indeed will have that in your district. You have classrooms that are well undersized, but the student to teacher ratio may be 18 to 1, right? And so they're really packed in there.
And your food service areas, they're actually predicated on current numbers or projections?
That's right. So they should be based on your enrollment capacity, not necessarily the number of students that are there today or who may be there 10 years from now, but what is the capacity of the building for number of students? And then it's a calculation that VDOE recommends that helps you say, well, your kitchen should be this many square feet based on this many students, or your cafeteria should be this many square feet based on this many students being served in 3 lunch shifts, or, you know, in some places it's up to 6 lunch shifts. All right, so let's jump into energy analysis. I know everybody is just dying to get into this information here, but it is pretty telling. So we have collected data for all of your facilities for energy usage, electric, fuel, what have you, and they have calculated in several different ways. And so, again, very hard to read on the screen, but this chart you're looking at is called the EUI, or it's the kilowatt BTUs per student by school. So we're measuring by the number of students in the school today. You can see there a couple anomalies, and we'll talk about those in a minute. Those are actually your newest schools. Those are your high schools, but we'll talk about why those look drastically different than the others. Overall, you know, most of your elementary and middle school, well, all of your elementaries are kind of within the same grouping. They're fairly close. And then we analyze it in a cost per student by school. Again, the same 2 anomalies there on the chart. And this information is much better in a printed form, so I'm sure we could get this to you so you can analyze this a little further. But we analyze it in a cost per student by school, and then a cost per square foot by school. Again, the same anomalies all around there. Why? Go ahead, sir.
Just annual cost?
Yes, this is 2024 numbers, I think. Thanks what we gathered. 2024 numbers, because it's the most comprehensive set we have to date. And so we'll look at this comparative to we actually gathered data on all facilities that we are lucky enough to be your architect. We gather the historic data of those schools and how they've performed. And so we have asked for comparative analysis from a couple of our other schools within the Commonwealth of Virginia, so we can just look and see how is it measuring up. But this is pretty telling of why you have anomalies. Those are your newest schools, Page High and Luray. And why are they so much greater in energy usage? It's because both of those schools actually have air conditioning, for one thing. And the other is the extended after use hours in athletic facilities. So don't let the anomalies kind of throw you off. That's probably to be expected, you know, given the little 2 caveats there. But we picked a representative elementary school to help gauge where Page is lining up right now with the facilities you have, because comparing the high schools gets a little more tricky. But the representative elementary school is about 64,000 square feet. It opened in 2018, so much more modern facility with proper code compliant installation and new mechanical equipment and so forth. 643 student school. It's 100% air conditioned. So much like your high schools, it has an AC. Those are the numbers you see there: cost per square foot, cost per student. But graphically, this will help you read it from where you sit. That red bar is that new school built in 2018 with full AC, and the rest of those blue lines are your schools ranked in order of energy usage. Your most efficient elementary school right now is Shenandoah, and you can see the representative elementary school kind of falls right between Luray Elementary and Stanley. So, overall, you're kind of measuring up to what the new school is, but keep in mind the new school is fully air conditioned. You don't have that energy uses and consumption in your current school. So if you view it in that regard, you're probably using a tremendous amount of energy on those existing facilities. And what we hope to do, we actually are running some numbers on some new middle schools right now as well, and we'll populate those within this chart too in the final report, just so you have more than one to gauge. All right, so that's a tremendous amount of just hard data. Now we get to talk about things that are a little more exciting, we think. So after we've collected that data and Tracy's team have assembled a tremendous amount of data on your students and the district as a whole, we sat down as a group and said, okay, what's next? Where do we go from here? How do we use this data to help understand what our next steps should be? So I said earlier, this is a macro level study at this point. And what we're here to present to you tonight is really 6 options to consider for moving forward. These aren't necessarily, full-on recommendations from the design team. These are options that we want you to consider and boil down to a more narrowed focus. This is actually the second cut already. The design team and the school administration, Dr. Johnson, Mr. Dykes, and all the folks sat down several months back. And at one point, we probably had close to 12 or 15 options to consider, from just a brainstorming, collaborative effort, blue sky even. Some of them were probably really blue sky, which is why they're not on the screen today. They're probably too blue sky. About where do we go from here as a district? And again, our goal as your professional services provider is really to help guide the conversation to a plan that is contributing to a long-term, financially responsible, physically responsible approach to a sustainable solution for Page County. So the 6 options you see here have been distilled down from 12 or 15. What we hope to achieve very soon with your help and your blessing is to distill this down once again to maybe three viable options. And from there, we'll talk about next steps. But we want to review each of these options. I will try to move through them quickly, but please stop me if you want to discuss them further, and we can always return to them. But option one is the deferred maintenance plan. And I want to say this is kind of the do nothing plan, but you still have to do something. You have to maintain your facilities. You have to implement that CIP that Mr. Dykes has put together. That's not inexpensive. It's still a $51.5 million deferred maintenance plan. And it maintains 9 schools. So you currently have those 9 schools considered. They will remain open. It's quote, the do nothing plan, but it's really, you still have to do the deferred maintenance. Option 2 is still the deferred maintenance and then possibly some renovations. So you address those CIPs at the high school level, plus heavy renovations at middle school and elementary schools. Option 3 is looking at a combined high school, middle school, plus 4 elementary schools. So you're renovating and expanding your high schools, which are those high schools are your newest facilities. They're very well planned. I would applaud that design team and the group that did that design work for you several years back. They're well laid out. They're set up well for expansion, and they're your newest facilities. They're in good shape. And then renovate and expand those, and then potentially close both middle schools and renovate 4 elementary schools. Option 5, evaluate the ability to build 2 new pre-K through 6 schools, a north school and a south school, for example, by renovating and expanding existing high schools, and then build 2 pre-K through 6. This also places the middle school at the high schools as well, much like option 4. And then option 5 or option 6, that's up here, but maybe a bit drastic, is build 1 countywide high school, and then take your 2 existing high schools and convert those and then renovate Luray Elementary and convert the middle schools as well. So the far right column, we just kept a tally of how many facilities does that leave remaining open or in operation in Page County. All right, so let's go through these just a little bit at a very high altitude. Option 1, the deferred maintenance plan, all schools remain open. There's no new construction. And I will say, first of all, understand that we are here to help you understand the options you have available to you. We like to move forward with your blessing to evaluate at least three of these further. Some of these may have more viability than others, depending on what, again, your values and the community sentiment behind moving forward on any of them. But option 1, it is a viable option. There's no new construction. You perform boundary adjustments to the northern area. You all may recall when we talked about our enrollment, we have some elementary schools over capacity, some under. So these boundary adjustments would be done just to help balance that. So you have a shifting of about 60 elementary school level students across the county to help balance that. You fund and execute the CIP plan that Mr. Dykes has put together with the Bureau Veritas information, and all existing facilities remain open. So what does that look like from a pros and cons perspective? On a pros, you're balancing your capacity issues at your elementary school level. And we fully understand and appreciate the community sentiment behind the elementary schools, especially, and how they serve their communities. They have a very long history that is not lost on us at all. We understand that completely. So one of the pros of this approach is you still maintain those community school identities and how important that is. However important that is, it's still a very costly approach to continue to maintain these facilities. So some of the cons, we didn't list them all, but some of the bigger ones, you still have significant traffic issues at Springfield that would have to be addressed that are going to be costly. It's a very costly deferred maintenance plan. $51.5 million over the next 5 years is very aggressive, very costly. But the longer you wait, the more costly it's going to be. Escalation is real. It's not 10% like it was during the pandemic, but it's still a very real factor. You're spending $51.5 million just to maintain very old facilities. It's not creating brand new sparkling facilities. It's not creating amazing instructional space. It's purely just maintaining very old buildings. There's huge schedule implications. Occupied renovations are difficult. They're not impossible. Phasing is certainly something you can consider, but there are scheduling impacts, and really only be able to do some of the very most heavy renovations during summer, those 2 months in the summer. And so it's hard to get a lot done in that regard. And it doesn't really address the educational adequacy metrics like classroom sizes, for example. What does that look like as far as the boundary adjustments? Tracy's team has put together these graphics, and this is just snapshots from a digital platform that the school administration will have access to once we're complete. But this is just making some very minor adjustments to shift those 60 students to better balance out your elementary school levels. So the original boundary for Springfield was slightly extended to relieve pressures at Luray. And one thing that we do when we talk about boundary adjustments, it's very important to not only your administrators, but also your parents in the community is drive time to the school that the community is being served by. So, we adjust those based on calculations and mapping, but maximum drive time it actually went down at Luray by making those adjustments. And Shenandoah went up, or Springfield went up, and Stanley went up by about a minute and a half or less. So these adjustments, all that to say, very negligible change in drive time. All 9 schools remain open again. So this is the middle school. Those boundaries stay the same. They're serving the same communities. Drive time is the same. No real adjustments there. High school stays the same, and maximum drive time adjusts just slightly. But again, very negligible change. And so this is really just the deferred maintenance addressing all those issues in the Bureau Veritas documents in the very slightest change in boundary adjustments. Not a real dramatic change there. It's just a lot of money on maintaining very old schools. Option number 2 is still having to do that deferred maintenance, but heavy renovations at the middle school and elementary schools. So again, no new construction. We still perform those boundary adjustments, but those middle schools and elementary schools go under a more intense, phased, and occupied renovation schedule. All existing facilities still remain open, but you start to address some of the more intensive space planning issues at both your elementary and middle schools to maximize the space you have. Some of the pros of that, you're still balancing that capacity and you're still maintaining that community sentiment behind the school identity. But some of the cons, you're entering a multi-year phased occupied renovation process, which is also very costly. You're still doing the deferred maintenance schedule of $51.5 million. You're still maintaining very old facilities. You still have the scheduling impacts. They're probably actually emphasized even more because of the occupied renovations. So then you add in disruption to your instruction time. It will require a temporary modular classroom approach to allow for phased occupied renovations so students are safe while facilities are being renovated, or you find alternative swing space within the county for a temporary situation without having to do the modulars. And it's really difficult to kind of ensure equity between the communities when you approach it in this way. Again, the districts are the same. That slight adjustment to pick up the 60 student shift, drive times are the same. So these maps are all the same for this option as they were for option 1. Again, the caveat to that one is we're just doing some intensive renovation at selective elementaries and the middle schools. Number 3, we look at combining the high school with middle school grades and convert the existing middle schools. And again, this is another topic that is not lost on us, the difficulty of bringing middle schoolers to the high school. And there are very calculated ways in which your design team should be thinking about things like separation of the appropriate grade levels, providing separate entrances, for example, separate facilities, and making sure that what is shared, that the paths, operationally, the paths of those students may not necessarily have to cross. It's a pretty dramatic difference between a 7th grader and a 12th grader. Those of you that are educators and folks that handle this every day. But I will say, as from an architect's perspective, we do this all the time and help districts understand that there are ways to alleviate those pressures through architectural interventions that are very effective. So that's to get into maybe at a later date. But this approach, we do new classroom additions to the current high school to accommodate 7th and 8th grade at both high schools. And you remember I said earlier, your high schools are very well planned. They have, as an architect and what we do all across the Commonwealth, the kind of the fingered approach where you have grade houses as their own wing. It creates the ability to make those separations, for example, very strategic. It also allows for things like natural daylight in your classrooms, which is so important. So they're very well planned. They are set up well to expand. They're set up well to add a middle school classroom wing to each of them. And those students will be properly separated from the upper grades. But what this allows is then for the middle schools to move to the high schools for 7th and 8th grade. It also creates the ability to expand electives and lab spaces, and something we're seeing too all across the Commonwealth, the opportunities for CTE at the middle school level. And we're seeing that being incorporated even into new middle schools that we're designing right now. Luray Middle and Page County Middle are to be converted then to pre-K through 6. So those are going to require significant additions and renovations, major renovations. But the good news is if you can handle this in a phased manner, you can build the additions to the high schools, you can move the middle schoolers over, and no one is displaced during construction, and your instructional time can continue. And then being considered as part of this may be possible expansion to Page County Technical Center and or the CTE programming, which we'll talk about a little later. This option reduces your number of facilities to 5 schools. So as you can imagine, after looking at our energy analysis as just one example, by reducing that from 9 to 5, you start to see significant long-term savings in energy usage. Other factors to consider would be transportation, overhead. All those things decrease by reducing the number of facilities you're having to operate. So some pros. Go ahead, sir.
I just go back to the other slide for a moment. The question that I have, and Dr. Johnson, you can help me out on this, isn't Luray Middle School older in age than Luray Elementary School?
Yes.
And it's 3 floors.
So, yeah, no, so I think you have added another,
Yeah.
because he's talking about the state and age of Luray Middle.
Yeah.
To upgrade that to an elementary, why not upgrade the elementary as it is? And it's 1 floor.
It's certainly something we could consider as part of the next thing.
And it's not as old as the old high school.
That's 1930s building.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it was a high school when I went there. So, okay.
Very distracting.
Yeah, I mean, and you got pre-K and K in a building that's 3 floors.
Right.
With elevators.
Yeah, and with the library down steps and, I don't see that one.
Yeah, one sticky elevator.
Okay, you can move on.
All right, I think once
I
we
just
get
don't see that one.
this is exactly why we're doing this, because I think once we get through number 6, you'll have a better picture of what options have the most viability.
Okay.
So some of the pros and cons of this, it does reduce your number of facilities by 4. That's a pro, right? You're going to see long-term savings from that. It reduces operational costs, transportation costs, maintenance costs, utilities. It removes the need to address your worst and most costly CIP improvements and reduces those phased occupied renovations of the elementary schools. The cons is it closes those, 4 community-based elementary schools, right? That what was a pro by keeping now becomes a con because you're closing them. It will require expansion to both high schools and both middle schools. Classroom spaces for alt ed needs to be considered somewhere here, and this is a programming question we'll get to later. And conversion of middle school classrooms to lower grade level classrooms, pre-K through 2, would require extensive renovations. So that's to your question. For example, the classrooms don't have the restrooms in.
So how are you going to convert a 1930 building that was a high school?
That's right. Just if I may, so a lot of some of these proposals are because of capacity.
Yes.
So, for instance, the example we just discussed, pre-K through 6 numbers are too large, if my memory is correct, on the capacity sheet to fit in LES.
Yes.
But they would fit in LMS, which is why that's on the table. But,
Correct.
But couldn't you add on to LES
well, yeah, that's
That could be considered as well. Yes.
and fix some of the other major issues that's there?
Yeah, there are significant, in touring LES, there are significant envelope issues. The building envelope is really challenging. So it would be still yet be a very costly renovation as well.
And the heating and cooling is not the same throughout the whole building.
Right. So from a capacity and boundary adjustment perspective, the existing middle schools have a combined capacity of about 1,061 students right now. Pre-K enrollment is about 1630. So additions to the middle school would need to be made to accommodate even this grade configuration. So you have capacity issues at both the middle and the Ray Elementary that would require expansions of some sort to handle the number of students we would anticipate. High school boundaries would stay the same. In this scenario, capacity for Page County would be, it'd be just over 100%. But again, remember, you're projected to decline. So you'll be under that 100% in the next 5 years. The drive time, maximum drive time to Luray High School is 22.3 and to Page is 30.8. So, you know, you could say that's very close to being equitable across the board. Option 4, combined high school, middle school, that like the scenario we just talked about, plus 4 elementary schools. So this would include new classroom additions to the high school to accommodate the 7th and 8th grade, like we just discussed in the previous option. You expand that same elective and lab space, CTE opportunities, auxiliary gym, and athletic facilities to accommodate those additional grade levels. You do phased renovations of all elementary schools to then become pre-K through 6. And you still keep on the table the possibility to expand the technical center and or the technical center programming. This option, you have 7 schools instead of 5 or 9. Some of the pros, you reduce the number of facilities by 2. So not as good as the 4 in the previous option, but you still reduce it some. You see some of the reduced operational costs and so forth, and you still remove some of those most costly renovations and phased occupied renovations of the middle school. Some of the cons, adding 6th grade to elementary school culture could be proved to be challenging because you've been at pre-K 5. And so dealing with adding a 6th to the elementaries may put a wrinkle in it. But again, we got to think about architectural planning and how we handle that. It will require expansion and renovation at both high schools and 4 elementaries. So again, that's a large task. It still could require temporary modular classroom approach or alternate swing space approach somewhere within the county. And then systematic expansion and renovations to all elementaries will require a lengthy schedule. In other words, you're not going to take on 4 elementary school expansions in one fatal swoop, right? You're probably going to do 2 and 2 or even chip away 1 at a time. By that time, you've spent 10 years trying to get your schools up to date. Yes, sir.
All the combination thus far have shown a reduced operational costs and transportation. And how do you calculate that?
So it's going to require a tremendous amount of effort from the administration to provide all of the current bus routing information, bus maintenance. It would require looking at further, the energy analysis is part of that, but we'd have to look further into now comparing that to whatever is being accepted as the proposed approach. In other words, if, for example, I'll use the most dramatic one. If we were going to build a brand new high school, we would have to then compare all of the operational costs of your current 2 high schools to whatever that hypothetical new school would be to realize what that projection would look like. So we can't do that step until we know what options you want to try to move forward with in a little more detail. So right now it's under the assumption that operational costs would decrease, transportation costs would decrease because you're decreasing the number of schools, number of bus routes to each school.
That option would come with a lot of risk once we continue your space. So you sign a contract with someone, inflation is way up, and you'll force them to do whatever.
Yeah.
And you're not guaranteed.
So if you were gonna look at this option and seriously consider it, hypothetically, you would probably consider doing 2 elementary schools per effort, whether that be to the first half to the second half. And I would say at the scale of these projects, they're probably 8 to 10 months of design work and probably about a year of renovations. So roughly 2.5 years per school. You would not issue one contract for all of that work. You would only issue whatever you're going to do in the first half. Then you would put the other 2 on hold until you're ready to design those. Then you would hire and go out to bid a second time, because in 5 years at 4% interest, that you're not going to get anybody to lock in to do all of them at once.
It also strikes me that if we go to this modular classroom approach, which I hate modular classrooms personally, but you're going to increase your energy costs. You're also going to have to add bathroom facilities potentially. So you're going to have a lot more cost with modular classrooms.
It is a significant cost. And there's intricacies to leasing those versus you end up purchasing them after a certain period. You can easily, on a modular classroom pod of not enough to support a whole elementary school, you could easily spend $500,000 pretty quickly just on something you'll never own.
That, and to me, it poses a security issue.
Right.
They are challenging. Yes, sir.
And sometimes they never disappear.
Yeah, temporary becomes permanent sometimes. Yeah.
The security issue is to me, is a major factor. Because right now, all of our buildings, I feel, is very secure to get in, to break the envelope. It's pretty difficult. But a modular, it's out there on its own.
You have to include fencing or
You
some
do.
type?
Yeah.
You do. Yes, sir.
And then it becomes looking like a jail.
And Mr. Breeden, to your point, the reason that our current elementary schools capacity, people remember Luray Elementary when it was pre-K to 7.
Right.
But we don't house students outside
And
in
there's
modulars
modulars.
anymore. So a lot of that square footage is a thing of the past.
Yeah, Stanley did the same
It's just
thing.
storage.
All of
They
our
had
schools
separate.
did, yeah.
Yeah, and Grove Hill had them.
And
And,
Springfield did as well.
yeah.
Unfortunately, sometimes they're just necessary in order to get through
Construction.
occupied renovations. And, you can do lease agreements on them for 3 to 5 years, but they're still very costly, even just to prepare a site for them, get electric and sewer and water to them, because especially at an elementary school level, you're going to want toilet rooms to be included and not want those kids going back and forth to the school. So it becomes a very costly proposition for something that you just can't. Honestly, you hope you never have to own them, because they do become a burden after a while.
Yeah, we've learned that too.
All right. So this adjustment in boundary, the existing elementary schools, they'll have a capacity of about 1,560. Pre-K 6 enrollment is currently about 1,630. But again, in 5 years, when that plan starts to be actually implemented and you see the results of some of the renovations, expansions, you're looking at a projection to decline. So you're down below to that 1,498. So, you could accommodate this within the existing buildings by the time you actually implement the plan. And then the 7 through 12 option, you'd still be just over 100% according to today's numbers, but again, you're projected maybe to flatten or decline, and maximum drive time stays the same. Option 5, 2 new pre-K through 6, and then renovate the high school and add the middle school to the high school. So, new classroom additions to the current high school to accommodate 7th and 8th. You guys see a theme here. This one's carried through just about all of them. Expand all those elective courses, expand the cafeteria, gymnasiums, athletic facilities. And then you consider building 2 new pre-K through 6 schools to create 2 county campus environments. So that's 2 new elementaries, and then the fairly new high schools that have just been expanded. So now you have 2 campuses of facilities that are ready to take on the next 50 years. So what are the pros of this approach? You create campus models. So some would see that as a pro and an advantage. You reduce the number of facilities by 4, so you're significantly seeing operational costs go down, energy use go down. You remove those costly CIP improvements at $51.5 million. In this option, we're talking about building new schools, but we're not looking to seek out and purchase land. We have found that through this exercise, Page County, while it's wide open and beautiful, absolutely bucolic, finding appropriate land to build a large new school is difficult because of the infrastructure, the lack of the infrastructure. So in this approach, we would actually be building these schools on land you already own, the 2 high school, middle school campuses. So minimal instructional disruption, because you can build the new schools and keep the existing in operation while you're being built. It's shorter. It's a much shorter schedule to implement, And as you all know, time indeed in construction, time is money. And then new schools all across the board with a 50-year plan ahead. The cons to this are a little shorter. We probably could expand this with a lot of debate, but it closes 4 of those community-based elementary schools. Again, not an easy thing to take on. And the cost, while it's minimal, we're still proposing that we end up demolishing Page County Middle School in order to allow for the construction of a new school.
Okay, that was my question. Where were you putting, at the campus-based model?
Yes.
Where are you putting the elementary school? So you would take down Page County Middle School,
Yes, sir.
and at the high school, I'm assuming you build beside of it,
Yes, sir.
the elementary. Okay.
And again, this is just conceptual. Well, let's get to the aerial. We'll get to the end. So in this option, as far as the boundary adjustments and capacities, in elementary schools would be pre-K through 6. The new Luray Elementary would be built on the Luray High School site, and the new Page County would be built on the Page County Middle School site. Assumption is capacity of about 850 students for each of those elementary schools. So you have additional capacity. You'd never want to build to 100% of your capacity on day one, because as soon as you do, your school's too small. Boundary lines are consistent with those of the high school, so your boundaries stay the same from pre-K all the way through high school. So those students would have a nice transition from school to school. Maximum drive time would be about 17 or 19 minutes for Luray Elementary and about 31 minutes for Page County Elementary. So a little bit of separation there. But you can see from the geography and the location of the existing high schools, it just makes sense, and you don't have to buy additional and seek out additional land to be appropriate for elementary schools. Just so everyone has a gauge about how much land you would be considering for an elementary school, VDOE recommends about 13 acres be the minimum you would look at for a new elementary. High schools are obviously considerably more because of athletic facilities, but that all depends. There's a wide range there depending on what exactly you want to build there. And then the high schools are 7 through 12. It's the same option that we've been looking at through other previous options. Capacity would be just over 100%, but again, projected some decline there. Drive time stays about the same. And then option number 6, one countywide high school. And so we would be considering building one new countywide high school to combine the middle schools and the new tech center, make a new tech center so you have a new CTE center with your high school. Convert the middle school to a pre-K through 2. Convert Luray Elementary to a pre-K through 2. And then convert the existing high schools to a 3 through 6 middle school. Pretty dramatic approach. Some of the pros: creates new centrally located high school, middle school, and tech center complex. It reduces the number of facilities by 4 and therefore reduces those operational costs. Minimal instructional disruption. And again, this is a 50-year plan, but a little more dramatic than option number 5. It is certainly the highest first cost approach of any option we're looking at right now. Very limited land, as I said before. Just at a cursory level, we know of very little land available or not even necessarily available. We don't even know what's for sale, but just by looking at infrastructure that would take to support a new high school and the size and acreage that you would need, you have very, very few options available to do that.
What's the acreage?
What does VDOE recommend?
So if you look at the VDOE standards for high school, they're a little bit debatable. I think they say 20 acres, but in our experience, most high schools, you need a minimum of 30, and closer to 40 is ideal to allow for the number of parking, the amount of parking you need, and the athletic facilities you would expect, especially for a high school with 1,000+ students.
Now, is that also including the ball field?
Yes, that's the whole complex. That's not just the.
And that's taking in effect the Votech Center being there too.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
Would the Votech Center be attached to the high school, or would that be a separate owned
I
building?
think that's probably a question. If this option were going to be considered, that's part of our next steps. So it can be done both ways. We've designed high schools where they're integrated into the school, and we've done plenty of CTE centers that are freestanding. So it's really
Like a campus base?
yes, sir. So it really depends on the preference, the land that's available, and the programs. You know, when we get into CTE center design, this is probably going way outside the purview of this presentation, but you get into things like the conversation about dirty labs versus clean labs. You have building trades, for instance. You may not necessarily want them integrated with the high school proper just because of the dust control, the noise, things like that. So lots to consider there. And the conversion of the high schools to lower grades, while they're not adding toilet rooms to make them pre-K through 6, they are still difficult to meet those 3 through 6 levels. The classrooms probably not quite appropriately sized, but the downside too I see is those are your 2 newest schools and probably are not in need of conversion or renovation. So while that's not a con on here, you're basically going back to touch your 2 newest schools in order to make this option work. The total enrollment would be 385 at the former Luray Elementary with an existing capacity of 500, so you're well under capacity there in this option. Your enrollment would be 363 at Page County Middle with an existing capacity of about 510, so you're well under capacity there. The former Luray Elementary, the max drive would then be about 20 minutes, just shy of 20 minutes, and the Page County Middle would be a little over 30 minutes. The grades 3 through 6 model, total enrollment would be 458 at the former Luray High School with a capacity of 697. So you're well under capacity. You have to start to question the efficiency of that at that point at 65%. It's a lot of space to be keeping utilities on for that capacity. Total enrollment would be 424 at the former Page County High School with a capacity of 697. So you're even less there, 60% capacity. Drive time is roughly about 22 and 32 minutes. So what you end up with are 2 existing high schools converted to this 3-6 model with a tremendous amount of extra space that in a declining environment, you'll probably never fill in this model. Single high school, this is purely hypothetical. We know of no significant land available, so we are looking at geography here based on infrastructure. Grade 7 through 12, it's a potential site, so it's hypothetical. The capacity is hypothetical because we have to base it on what you have now and what you're projected to have, but it's not real. And then the max drive time is about 40 minutes, and average being about 12 minutes across the county. So again, this location you see in the star there is just approximate. But it's, I think we're showing a 1,500 enrollment there just to have something to go by. So those are options that we've distilled down from 12 or 15. It's a lot of information to digest. We by no means anticipate having a clear direction before we leave here tonight, but we would like to talk about what are the next steps that we'd recommend. And then hopefully look to you all to provide some insight on where you'd like us to go next based on that. Yes, sir.
One question. When you talked about the wings that you would add to the high school in the 7th and 8th grades, would you segregate the cafeteria section so that the existing cafeteria food service would service both the high school and the new middle school?
Ideally, if the programming exercises prove that the existing cafeteria and the existing kitchen are appropriately sized for the number of students we're adding to the school, ideally you would not replicate that service because the kitchen, unfortunately, is one of the most expensive, costly parts to build in the entire school. So you would hope not to replicate that. At the very most, you would hope that maybe it requires a freezer cooler expansion or something that's minimal, but it's appropriately sized. My guess tonight is, I'd hate to speculate, but my guess is your existing kitchens in both of those high schools, being that they're recent, they're probably appropriately sized or could be made appropriate with very little effort.
You just make a
Dining facility, the dining area would be separate.
as a
segregated.
principal, you would just do another block. And
You do another
kitchen
shift.
separate.
Yep.
Yeah.
What we would hope is that wherever we were to speculate to put a middle school wing, for instance, could take advantage of your existing cafeteria space without having to cross over into the high school function. So I'm sure it's appropriately sized to handle one more, another shift to handle the additional students without replicating space. Again, in order for that approach to be effective, you'd want to be very judicious with how many things you're actually replicating and try to capitalize on as many existing spaces as you have. So some thoughts about next steps. Again, our scope of work, you all remember when we started this, gosh, what's it been, an hour ago now? Our scope of work's pretty expansive. And so we're pretty deep into it right now. You see all this data information we've gathered. We've distilled it down into a few options. We're hoping that you folks can give us some guidance on where you'd like to see us take those options. So what does that mean? With input and approval from this board, Page County Public Schools, our team would propose programming workshops for narrowed options. So that would mean of those 6 options, we think these have the most viability to look at further and consider. We would then move into programming workshops in which our team would come up and set up shop in Page County. We would work with your administrators, your principals, your athletic directors, curriculum directors, special ed directors, all the folks that are helping make these schools operational, and we would go through each of these options to program what would each of those look like. In other words, for example, if we were going to indeed move forward with an option that places the middle schools at the high schools, we would program the middle schools with the middle school administrators and school board office, and then start to test fit those middle schools on the sites at the high schools. So that next step, the conceptual macro level planning exercises, you can start to see where would we consider placing an addition to handle the middle school capacity that we would expect at the 2 high schools. And then look at it even from a site level. Does it have appropriate number of parking spaces? Are the athletics facilities appropriate and equitable? All those things would go into a very high altitude conceptual plan. And then we would bring in one of our other scope points that you remember from earlier. Our cost estimating team would then join the conversation to help us put numbers to what would it cost to do those expansions and renovations to allow for the middle schools to be at the high schools, for example. And then once we have that completed, we will then take all of this information that you've seen tonight, plus what we still have left to do, and we would submit to you a complete comprehensive master planning document that has all this documented, that shows you the sequential steps from the boots on the ground all the way down to these conceptual design ideas and costs. So those are what we project as propose as our next steps for you all to consider based on a narrowed, and again, I say narrowed options because of those 6, which of those 6 have the most viability and could be something that your communities would embrace. What also would be included in this is additional community meetings at your recommendation. I did include, and thank you all very much, by the way. That's a tremendous amount of information to digest. But I did include aerial images of your high schools if we wanted to discuss that any further. Again, these are really small images, unfortunately, but you can see here Page County High and Middle School site. The area highlighted in green there is the high school, the middle school setting, just page right there. So you can see you have a good amount of acreage and land there. You have the ability to expand the high schools. Unfortunately, you just can't see it because they're so small on the screen. But the high schools are set up with the grade house wings, and you have the ability to expand in multiple directions. So they're set up well to consider those options.
Just a quick question. If this is a campus-based, where would the elementary school go?
I think that's still to be considered. I think that's part of the next steps. If we want to consider placing additional schools on either of these sites, that's part of that number 2 there, conceptual macro level planning. And we would do that based on a lot of factors: site circulation, parking, utility availability, security, even thinking at the site level, security.
We know about Page High School.
Right.
With you using the Page Middle School site, but Luray is different. It doesn't have that. So it has to be somewhere in that green.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have correct. It is somewhere within the green because that is the property you own with the high school. This is pulled directly, by the way, from your county GIS mapping. So that highlighted area is property the county already owns. And we're actually looking in several districts right now, very similar issues. There are ways that you may, for example, you see the baseball, softball fields there. Perhaps a new school gets placed there and you build new softball, baseball field. There's a lot of different ways to approach this. But at this level, we can say the acreage is appropriate, access is there, utilities are there. You don't have to replicate those on another hypothetical site somewhere that'll be very costly.
Okay. Dr. Johnson, you want to share a couple things?
Yeah, I would just thank you, Chris.
Yes.
We've enjoyed working with you. Just for the sake of the public, I think it would be helpful to know that RRMM was brought in a year ago now, I think, and it all began with a joint meeting of the school board and the board of supervisors. And I know there's so many supervisors here tonight, but many of you all and many on the school board were not here at that point. And so we're just getting into this. We contracted with RRMM. It's been funded. So the next steps that Chris is talking about, that's part of what we've already paid for as a community.
That was a question I had.
Yes. Yeah. So this is all pre-funded, if you will. And, so to see this to the end, to that finished document, gives the county something to hang on to. The other thing I wanted to mention for the sake of the Board of Supervisors and the school board, I have sent you, while I was sitting here, this presentation. So, Ms. Moller, if you would share that with the supervisors, school board, I shared that with you just a little while ago. So you'll be able to, at your leisure, then go back and work back through it.
Yeah, that's a great point, Dr. Johnson. Thank you. I should have mentioned those next step recommendations. It's already included in what we've pledged to do for Page County Public Schools. So we're not asking for additional scope of work here. It's already in there. We just want to get your blessing to move forward because we don't want to exercise options that you have no interest in seeing.
All right. Anybody else got any questions from the board?
And I do have Tracy is here patiently waiting. She's been standing in the wings, and it's only I tried as best I could to use Tracy's language in demography and enrollments and things like that. But if you have questions for her, she is available, specific about the enrollments and capacities and boundary adjustment concerns. So,
any questions for Tracy?
Not this
I
time.
guess not this time, but we can work that out with another
Right.
call, maybe. Yeah.
no, I must have done an okay job, Tracy. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, we thank you
You
for
did an
that.
excellent job, Chris.
A lot of data.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, I'll conclude by saying thank you all. So far, it's been an absolute privilege. We're really enjoying being in your schools and working with your folks, and look forward to bringing this to some finality that gives you a very clear direction. So, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. The superintendent's update, Dr. Johnson.
Yes, and I just want to say we tried to put all of our business up front, so the remainder of this agenda is pretty brief, just so the audience is aware of that. I have just a few things to say tonight. I wanted to share with you, as we have been each meeting, where we are with our attendance and ADM. We are unchanged since the January report. We are still at a student enrollment of ADM enrollment of 2810. So as we're tracking budget, as you all know how important that is to our budget numbers, this is still, we're holding steady at that. We wanted to say a special thank you tonight to our school counselors. And so we listed them all here. February 2nd through the 6th was School Counselor, National School Counseling Week. We have wonderful people at all levels, school counselors, TDT counselors. We want to say thank you to all of them. So we just had the secretaries to support our school counselors at the secondary level. They are just phenomenal people for our students. So we wanted to make mention of them tonight. Yep. Along those lines, last meeting, Mr. Pitts presented to you, and he promised you that he would get you information on the Page County Technical Center events that are upcoming. And so you can see there, the 7th grade showcase is February 27th. And 9 to 10:45 is the LHS group. And 12:50 to 2:35 is the PCHS group. And then the Day in the Life event that he alluded to, that's March 23rd from 4:30 to 6. And so I can email these to you, I can make sure you have these. And then the 5th grade extravaganza, April 17th. So he had promised you all those dates and want to make sure you got those. A very special thank you, and we're going to do something for these gentlemen. The snow and ice was no joke. And clearing our properties was a challenge. And our maintenance, mechanics, grounds crew, and some volunteer individuals, they worked through that storm. On Sunday, when that storm was at its peak, we were asked to keep the high schools open in case of the need for shelter with the ice. So we had men out plowing and scraping and putting down chemicals. And as you all know, and as people understand with their own residential property, keeping 9 buildings open and getting back into school. I'll tell you, I was very proud when I watched some of the major news outlets, Northern Virginia News, and we were back in school by midweek, and I'm watching the struggles of other communities. It says a lot about VDOT in this community, and it says a lot about our team. And so just a special thank you. So we listed them all by name. Yep. And lastly, just to let you all know, because we didn't want you to think we forgot about you, it is School Board Recognition Month. We thought better of it than trying to do it tonight. So thank you, School Board, but we are going to celebrate you at the next meeting.
All right.
So, and we don't want to forget, I listed out our student reps as well, Joey, Veronica, Bridget, and Andrea, and then Miss Breeden Wallace and Miss Burton, our clerks as well. So we'll look forward to the next meeting. And that's all I have tonight.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, very good. We'll move to our action items. Claims for payment, Ms. Miller.
Yes, good evening again, board members. You've been provided with the claim certification for February 12, 2026, where the total operating fund expenditures are $208,127.94. Fund 5 food service, it's getting late, I can't talk anymore. They were at $34,119.32 for a total expenditures of $247.26. With this, you have been provided with claim certification and check registers. If you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer.
I do have a question. You don't have to answer tonight. You may not have it, but the food service fund, is it at meeting its own needs?
Yes.
Okay.
So I make a motion that we approve the claims for payment as presented.
A second.
Okay, got a motion by Mr. Oldfelt and a second by Mr. Breeden.
Yes.
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 Yes. School improvement plans, Mr. Hopkins.
Good evening, members of the school board. Tonight I come before you on I'm coming before you to ask your approval, basically, to submit the school improvement. LES, Page County Middle School, Shandell, they did not meet for some kind of student. So the state of Virginia has allowed us to apply for grants. It's taken a massive amount of time for community to develop a needs assessment, resource and equities guide, a division plan, a school plan, and then filing an application. But this all has happened from January 14th today.
Yeah.
They've done a ton of work. We at the central office have supported them through this whole again, but the reason we did it on the front end is
All right.
their turnaround time was absolutely ridiculous. We didn't know until the 14th what was expected. It was due February 6th. So we're asking tonight that you give us permission to submit those applications to Expedite. And it's very specific, so don't get excited thinking we're gonna have additional money. You have to apply for very specific things in your application, like I'm gonna buy that phone. That's particular, like it's gotta be in there. So the schools have done an amazing job utilizing the funding that's being offered.
I make a motion, we approve the school improvement plan so Mr. Hopkins and his team can get moving.
I second that motion.
Well, I got a motion by Mr. O'Bell, and I think Renee or Ms. Bryant had the second.
Mr. Overbell.
Yes.
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 Good job on the team.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Bell, Gov Deals auction items.
Good evening, board members. At your last meeting, I shared as information our request to dispose of some school property, and I'm asking for your approval tonight.
I'll make a motion that we approve the items for auction.
I have a question. This is what you presented last time.
Yes.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, got a motion by Mr. Boswick and a second by Mr. Overfeld.
Mr. Overbell.
Yes.
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 Thank you.
You're doing it.
So-
CSBA. Yep.
Yep. And so, members of the board, you remember 2 weeks ago, Ms. Clark brought to you a set of VSBA policy updates, and tonight we return to that list of policies for your approval.
I make a motion, we approve the VSBA policy updates as presented by Ms. Clark.
I second that motion.
Motion by Mr. Overfeld and a second by Mr. Boswick.
Mr. Bond.
Yes.
Mr. Green.
Yes.
Mr. Overbell.
Yes.
Mr. Barnett. Yes. Mr. Grant.
Yes. All right, board comments. I'll start with you, Jason. We'll just go around the horn.
Well, I'll keep it brief. Those 6 options are hurdles, every one of them. So it's a big task in front of us. But hopefully, with the Board of Supervisors' help, we can come to some agreement on something to move the buildings forward and move the kids into a better situation.
I'd like to dovetail to that. The presentation was fantastic. The size of it is like eating an elephant. You know, but at least gave us one leg at a time instead of the whole beast. And I appreciate that.
All it shows me is we've still got a lot of work to do. We've got a lot of things to think about. And, yeah, so but thank you for the presentation, though. We do appreciate that. A lot of good information, a lot to digest. And maybe there's an option that is not on the table we haven't considered. We got to think about. Thanks to the team, the maintenance team, for all the Herculean work they did over at Shenandoah Elementary. That was amazing what they had to go through to get in that building, which is kind of one of the reasons why we're talking about CIP. They couldn't get to the problem. They had to bust through a wall in the old building to get into the crawl space to fix what was wrong. So I mean that's just an indication of what we've got going on right now. Other than that, it's late. I want to pass. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for the presentation. A lot to consider. You know that you have to move forward and come to pass. But everything's expensive. So we work together as a team to serve our community. That's what we appreciate for this gathering at this point. And the facility crews have been amazing. They have worked, and it's everybody else wanted to stay inside. And I do not remember a time as an adult that I've seen bobcats clearing off sidewalks. So it was ice, and people did not want to give enough grace to clear that off. So I think that our community did a fantastic job. And of course, our counselors, thank you for all that you do in the schools. They're very loved, and they touch lives every day. Thank you guys for your time this evening. And I want to thank the board supervisors and of course all the other county employees who came tonight and really participated.
So you guys, as Megan, you've said it all, but thank you supervisors for coming out and all the other folks that came. And you guys are doing a great job. We're moving forward in some tough times, but we continue to move forward and we're doing well. And the Shenandoah Elementary thing, I went to visit myself with Mr. Williams. And I would not have wanted to do that. I was doing farm work, which is probably just as bad, but I still wouldn't have wanted to get in that mud and have to dig out that pipe. So I would thank every one of them for us for that. And good job, Mr. Williams. I know you got your cowboy boots dirty or something. So appreciate it. At this moment, I'll take a motion
Make
to
a motion to
adjourn.
adjourn.
Second.
All right. Where's it quick? So
Yes.
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 yes.